Good evening. Today is Thursday, September 19th, 2018. This is the monthly meeting of the Beech Grove Redevelopment Commission. Starting out, I would ask our members to introduce themselves, starting to my right, please.
Paul Kaiser.
Tara Wolf.
Kathy Chappell, Secretary.
Ron Moat, Vice President.
Mark Rim.
And I'm Donald Webb, the president. We'll start off first with the minutes from last month's meeting. Any corrections, questions? If not, I would ask for a motion to approve those.
I make said motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you for the notes, Kathy. Next, we will pay the bills. This month, we have $299,969.87. I will just read them off. We got Crossroads Engineers for $11,050, Crossroads Engineers for $4,350, and Crossroads Engineers for $20,300, and Crossroads Engineers for $9,060.13. Those four I want to do first because of a conflict of interest with Tara. I would ask the other board members if those bills are okay to pay, to make a motion for those four bills for Crossroads Engineers.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. And then the other bills we have, Boardman Enterprises, $590. That's to help with the lawn mowing. Peters and Municipal Consultants, $725.64. Lewis and Caps, $806. Tim Showalter, $225. $18 for the sewage works. Another Tim Showalter for $225. Let's see here, Regions Bank, which is $20,820. That's the bond interest. $230,000 to Regions also. That is the payment on the debt. Again, another sewage works bill for $1,875. Boardman Enterprises, $820. And that's all I see. So did we miss Tim? Because it seems like we got two 225s, and that seems like it's an extra one in there. Or am I wrong?
I think there's just one.
Okay, that's what I, thank you, Tim. And then the other one I question is Boardman. They usually send us a bill, but we got two of them here. We got one for $590 and one for $820. Okay.
Are they dated?
Good question, Kathy. And if I could read them, I would. Boardman 715 is the 820 and 89. So that's July and August. Now, we didn't meet
We
in
didn't
June.
have it, oh, it was June.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
didn't have
know.
June, so I mean, that's two back to back, and it doesn't seem like we, I don't know. I guess I can, tomorrow I can email our clerk treasurer and ask him for clarification on that. But in lieu of that, unless anybody has any problems, I'd ask for a motion, pay what's listed.
I make said motion.
I would ask for a second.
I'll
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the bills are paid. At this point, Mark, I'll let you start signing. I'm sorry.
It's
but,
okay, don't worry about that.
We can start with Kevin. You guys are ready? I hope you brought some flame retardants. We're ready to grill you, so.
Yeah, well, you approved the meetings minutes from last time, so I figured there might have been a statement in there we didn't hear about, but, no, we are happy to be back. I want to apologize for missing the last 2 months. Like we were here, we concluded in the May meeting, and just now getting back. We had an extremely busy summer and some other issues, but we're ready to move forward if you are. I did get a proposal emailed to Donald yesterday, and I don't know if everybody got forwarded a copy or not, or you're just seeing it first time tonight, but we've outlined the project to move forward for the two signs up on Emerson, the northeast and southwest quadrant of that intersection up there. Excuse me. And we're talking full design, detailed construction documents, specifications to go to bid with NDOT coordination. What we've had in the proposal is We have a couple sub-consultants for surveying, for some NDOT coordination assistance, and some structural analysis review of the sign structure itself, since we're in the public right-of-way. That will, again, eliminate Tara from voting on anything because of that, but sorry to say. And we have an electrical consultant also to help us with the lighting within the monument itself. So it's our goal, plan to get on this immediately. It's going to take about a month to get all the survey and the initial work done. So we're, with Christmas 3 months out, we're looking at probably being done end of the year, first of the year, right in there. Be ready for bid before spring starts, so they can hit the ground running if everything gets approved and funded and move forward. So that's kind of our plan. If you had a chance to look at the proposal, I hope we detail it out enough for you to make it clear and understandable, what we're proposing. Donald did ask me for what do we think it's going to cost a year ago this month or next month. Excuse me, foggy throat tonight. We did give you kind of a pre-preliminary estimate. We were thinking somewhere in the $200,000 range. That was based on our preliminary concept design. So once we get this design more refined, we'll be able to tighten those estimates down to as real as numbers so we can get before it goes out to bid. So we think the old numbers are maybe a little high. We hope they might be, but we're not sure yet. So we think that's still a safe number to move
I
forward
know on
with.
the old numbers, the construction of the two initial signs was coming out right around 75,000. And then on
Piece.
your latest bid, they looked like they were coming out, well, about 210.
Did I send you the wrong document?
Well, no, I mean, you sent me the construction costs. You had it listed there. I think the total was 200 and some thousand, but
Yeah.
in the previous one we met, when was it, earlier this spring or last fall, they estimated of the two signs by themselves, because the whole project was originally, what, about 2.2 million?
Yeah, if we did the big sign on the bridge.
Yeah, if we did the big sign on the bridge, but the two smaller ones I thought were coming out around 75 to 80 a piece,
Right, which is what,
which, you know,
that's what we were showing still, on the
Okay.
year ago
Well,
estimate.
the one you sent me, and I just didn't get a chance to forward, I got real busy today. The one you sent me today, it was like I say, it was showing those construction costs, it looked like about 100,000 plus for a sign, each sign.
Well, the lighting we had separate at about $7,500.
Okay,
And then we showed the landscaping for the two triangles separately.
okay.
And then, of course, contractor mobilization, demobilization, and then we do have to have traffic control while we're out there.
Right.
Now, the one thing about these two locations, we're gonna have minimal traffic control because we're off the pavement. We're not gonna be closing any lanes. You know, they will have barrels around them for protection and identification, but there's not gonna be any major traffic interruption in that location.
Tara had that.
Outstanding, thank you, Tara. Yeah, because, yeah, you had 289,000.
Well, that
It
included.
includes the plantings, yeah.
Yeah, and that, we had a contingency in that old one just to make sure we had everything covered, and then we had the design fees, which we're proposing you tonight, which,
Right,
with our first phase, the concept development phase, and, I mean, the design development phase, you'd approved us for about 9,000, we only spent 5.
Right.
We're not spending the rest of that, obviously. So we're still below that 50, even with the sub-consultants on board.
right, okay.
And then the inspection, we had just at the basic 10% based on that price, which realistically, we probably won't need that much inspection. It's not a full-time inspector type project. And that's generally kind of just a negotiated percentage based on the final bid price.
The plantings at 12 and 15, those are just for the triangles?
Yeah, and I think on those preliminary drawings, you know, we had quite a bit of things going on there. And as we develop the plans, I mean, we'll come back and show you, you know, make sure everybody's happy, make sure Brad's happy at DPW and the mayor's happy what we're doing, so we don't develop too much maintenance or too much concern. NDOT's only concern is if you don't block the sideline, and they're not too concerned about anything else, so we're not gonna have any issues with them, I don't think.
Right. I guess, if we're working on this and we're spending the money on it, can you guys work on the cost for the plantings going down in those one areas you're talking about, like where you're gonna put rock, you know what I'm talking about? On the
Oh, down there on the side slopes?
slopes, yeah. I think if we're, we're spending it and surveying it and all that, it'll be cheaper to do it now than to come back and do it later.
Well, our survey cost didn't include that.
Okay.
I've got a copy of our survey limits, what we were looking at, we could include it. But I'll tell you, the preparation down there, Donald, is gonna be fairly substantial. That's really what we're planning on surveying.
Right.
Two project areas, and then, the whole grass strip basically is what, but we have to show the lanes and that lane too. to
Right.
Make it work right, so. The preparation down there and then the traffic, maintenance of traffic, other issues, it's gonna be a fairly substantial increase in cost if we go down there. We can start designing it and keep it as an alternate if you wanna go that direction, but
Well, I guess my thought is design it, and then, as far as the plannings go, we hire someone to clean it out, and then we use the sweat equity of maybe the Beech Grove Police Department keeping people away while we spend a day planning and mulching it with high school kids and volunteers. I mean, cause that's basically what Indianapolis did on their downtown interchanges. Now, granted, they didn't take care of them and they look run over, but I assume our plan is to take care of that and keep Beech Grove looking beautiful.
well, you could get
And
your.
I mean,
boss-
that's next year we can talk about, but that would be something.
Well, you
where
could
if
get
we
your
got to the fall-
employer, you can get your employer to sponsor
That
that.
would be something I would.
'Cause I mean,
too.
that's who did, the west side, which you know.
Right,
Yeah, and that, again, it'll take an NDOT permit, so NDOT would have to prove all that.
right.
And like I said, the maintenance of traffic. And I doubt, on those side slopes, they let you close the interstate down like they did on the
Well, not
west
so
side.
much the interstate, but I guess the on-off ramps, are,
Well, the
I'm
left
not sure.
turn ramp, you could probably close.
Right.
And everybody just use the straight or right turn ramp.
right.
On both sides, so they'd probably be pretty
And
functional.
I think if you had the police, or a police car there, or something,
Yeah.
or like you had cones or something walled off,
Yeah.
I think you could have a fair level of safety.
Yeah, I mean, it's all doable.
I mean, that's something in the future. I guess to me, I want to see if we can figure out a way to include that in the scope as well. I mean, the biggest and most expensive part's the sign over the highway.
Right.
And honestly, if we're gonna do the sign over the highway, that would be something where, how we talked about, we have, till 2030 and about $8.5 million. That'd be something we'd have to probably talk about as a group and with the city council and the mayor about, do we wanna borrow money to finish this whole project? This is something that we see as worthwhile for the city. But this part, I think we can get going.
Good. What?
Are you talking about all four sides, all four quadrants? I guess that's the only clarification of it.
What do you guys
Oh,
think?
It's a two-side slopes.
Right, but then, is he also talking about the Alex Fair side?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we had the side slopes, remember, we even.
Right, yeah, and
Stone in there at one time, because these were just bank slopes, we were just gonna plant trees in there flat.
Right,
These were the steeper slopes that are all above.
Yeah.
So that's what he's asking, are you talking about all four, look at, or? Because these are gonna be the two expensive babies here because of
right.
even though they're smaller.
That'd be something I'd ask my colleagues, because I'm not gonna
Tree
speak on it.
planting, this would be fairly simple and affordable here, these two. 'Cause we're not excavating the side of the highway.
Is it more expensive for somebody to come back a second time to finish it?
How do you mean finish? You mean do a phase two?
Yeah, is it cheaper to do it all at once, or is there a difference?
It could be a little more, depends on how extensive it gets. I mean, if they have to do a whole mobilization of all the equipment and all that, they
Right.
charge a lot more.
Right.
Planting trees, it's not that big a deal. They just pull up and they leave when they're done that day, they come back. So I don't think that's a big deal. If we work the banks, like I said, the preparation's gonna be the biggest part of that work is on the banks.
If the phased approach doesn't cost us more in the long run, then I don't see the harm in that, but that's my
I'm with
only
you.
Yep.
question.
Okay. We can look it down. Do you want us to edit this and include that in the scope as a written item?
do you guys think?
Is it gonna increase the cost of this contract?
It's going to double it, you know. I'm just kidding. You know, not necessarily. I mean, they might add a little bit.
Survey costs would be,
Yeah, I mean, if we do have to do more survey, if we're just going to plant the trees in the side slopes, we would need a survey. If we're going to work the two skinny banks, the steep ones, we probably would need to survey it. That would, in that location,
What
that'd
would the
probably,
need for surveying it be?
well, when you go
We're
out.
not building a house or a permanent
Right.
structure, we're planting trees and shrubs and ornamental grasses and stuff. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, why does that need to be surveyed?
Well, if we can find enough existing drawings that have that on it from NDOT or from the city, it should suffice.
So I'm gonna say, NDOT, didn't they just rebuild and design that about 8 or 9 years ago? I gotta think their
Yeah,
record.
well, there's plans on file, we don't
But
have
I,
them.
I guess that's where the only thing I'm curious about is, is what are we surveying for? Are we surveying?
Well, where the sign is, we need vertical and horizontal control.
Those I
Down there, if
understand,
we're
but I'm
just
talking
gonna be planting, you know, we probably don't, we can probably get by with the existing documents.
Okay, because I guess that's my thought is, where the signs and the triangles, I get the surveying and all that, because you want them at the right height, you want, they have to be, so far off the road or what, I understand all that, but like, going down and off the highway, those side areas that we're
Yeah.
talking about cleaning up, I don't, that's where I'm struggling.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, I don't think we need a survey there.
Okay,
Through any existing mapping, we'll get that figured out, I think, pretty easy.
perfect, but, like I say, I wouldn't,
It would probably add a little more time to our work, but not dramatic.
I mean, I
And we,
guess,
we can see how it goes, with that in mind.
honestly, Kevin, I guess my thought is, I'd like to get the plans to where, when we reach, because we'll have a new RDC next year, but I'd like to get them to where, like, say, the January, whatever day it's gonna be, 10th, 12th meeting, that RDC can either vote thumbs up or thumbs down on putting these 2 new signs
Sure.
in the spring, in the triangles on the exits. So that's my goal, and that's where unless somebody disagrees, please speak up, but that would be my goal, is to have those 2 there. And then my other goal would be also to look at, can we do everything basically but the huge signs, and and get costs for that, because again, next year we're outlaying a fair amount of money, but it may be that we work around that or somehow along those lines, that we look for other sources of revenue to complete this, but.
I think we could set it up to where those 4 additional pieces would just be their own items.
Okay,
They're either part of the bid, they're not, they can be saved for 6 months later,
okay.
a year later, whatever, without too much trouble, won't you, John? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll have the design basically done, and they either go with the signs or they don't, and they can always be done later. Like I said, you can take the Boy Scouts out and do it if you want to.
That's the man I'm counting on for my cheap labor.
Well, see, if you can recruit the bodies, that's,
And if we have to, we'll raise those service hours to 200. We'll get the job done.
We have a lot of kids that need community service, so we just have to put jackets on them so they don't get hit by cars.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Questions, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Lamping?
I would, if I was sitting up there and you were intent to do this, I would, whoever you want to hire, I would enter into a professional services agreement with them.
Yeah, he sent us that, and that's what I handed out to the members to look at. And, like I say, the initial bid for professional services Kevin has is, $44,212. So,
That should, including final drawings for your approval. Well, probably 3 are bid out, bids on this, so.
Kevin? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, what we're proposing to do is, there's a package to go to bid.
Okay.
And I assume it's bid through Department of Public Works, or is it just bid through the Development Commission? I'm not sure how you guys do this.
The bids here.
but we would help with the bid process.
But you have the city front-end general conditions normally that through Public Works that, for the bidders, your whole bid process and all the general conditions? Because, I mean, usually we don't supply that, the municipality always does, that's why so we'd coordinate with Brad Meriwether and,
And then your attorney would provide that as well.
And then the question on the survey, Debbie Jenkins from Beech Grove is our Marion County surveyor. Could you reach out to her on the surveying part?
I would ask those guys because I count on them, because they have their own surveyors, I take it.
yeah, it's her boss.
I didn't know if she was Marion County surveyor, if she
I don't
has
know.
to-
Usually the elected surveyors don't do surveying themselves,
I
no.
don't know if they would have somebody-
A lot of them aren't even a surveyor, so.
Or not, but I didn't know if they should have an input, or I didn't know.
In my experience, no.
Okay.
And I used to work for the city and we, no. And the survey, I mean, if they spend all the money, it's only gonna be like $5,000 at the most. It may come in less than that, because we set a budget item, it- But up the triangles, we need that. The rest of it, we don't, as we just discussed. Yeah. Excuse me.
Anybody have any other questions?
How do you normally bid your trail projects that you've been doing here? Same way? The-
We support the city on the trail, and we give money, but the city basically is handling the bids.
Oh, they go through the city instead of the
Yes.
commission? Okay.
The trail is an MPO project. So, understanding, we hire a company to do the professional services. They put the plan together, and then it's submitted for approval through NDOT. NDOT does the
Okay,
money.
so it's an end-out bid. Yeah. That's a whole different ballgame. Good. All right. Any other questions?
Does anybody have any comments or voice concerns?
Just remember, please, that, the roundabout we've got now and, Main Street and Emerson Avenue, once you do these things, they have to be maintained. So,
And-
keep that in the back of your head.
Right, and that's where, like Robert would point out, that the redevelopment commission by law is not allowed to help maintain. We're allowed to develop, and that's where I'd want to, again, we'll have time, but I want favorability from the city council and the mayor, of course, because once it was built, it would be up to the city to maintain it, because the RDC by state law is not allowed to maintain structures or anything.
That would either be by DPW or the city contracting.
Right, who is it, like, say, that'd probably be something that Boardman would bid on, and that would be part of the budget that, again, the city would build into it. And I don't know if we would need to, at some point have them look at the drawings and give us an estimate of what yearly costs, because the worst thing we can do is put this money out and then not maintain it. Because you know how it is with your own yard. If you don't maintain it, within a couple of weeks, you start seeing weeds, and then you get those Chinese elms growing up and everything gets nasty. And I don't want to put $300,000 into these intersections and then a year later, because you see it downtown, when you get off, they put a lot of money into those. I mean, I guarantee you they dropped well over $1 million to do all those intersections, and they just look awful.
Sometimes, I think most of it comes out of MPH. Local works contractual services.
So you're representing Robert, right?
Yes.
So I guess I could give you a copy of this agreement, I made 7 of them, but,
I've got one here.
okay, do we need to do this tonight, Kevin, or can we do it next meeting?
We can do it next meeting.
Okay, then, what we'll do is, you guys don't have to show up next meeting, but if you do, that's fine.
We got a bad reputation, but we
No,
can
you
we can
guys
still
don't,
come.
but, that'll give Robert a chance to look
Okay.
at it, and then Robert can work with you guys to draw them up, make sure everything's correct.
Right.
And then we can vote on approving it next month, if that's okay with the board.
Well, I'll go ahead and add that language, include the other things as an alternate design,
At this point, I think.
and just so it's on the record.
Right, I think the goal would possibly be to do everything but the huge signs.
Sure.
And then again, when I present the budget to the city council in probably October or November, that would be something I would ask them to consider, because it would probably mean, if we're gonna do it, probably mean the RDC would either have to do some type of bond or borrowing or not do it. But that would be something for your fellow council members and the mayor to consider. Because again, if we're gonna do this, I think we should do it right. And if we don't wanna do it, and if we're gonna, then we shouldn't do it, because, I mean, again, it's about our image and building the brand of Beech Grove.
Don, this does, I mean, it's a proposal, but everything that you guys have been talking about up there, this would be something that we would want to take a look at.
Right.
And connect with you outside of this meeting.
Right.
Bring it back and really talk about it and make sure that everything is included within this.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Well, if not, Kevin, thank you for coming, and thank you guys for the work, and,
Sure, thank you, we really.
like I say, keep working. I'm pretty sure we're gonna go forward with at least the first part of it. I'm pretty sure, unless people disagree. So, we'll get back to you officially in October, get it signed then.
Okay.
And then, like I say, I guess I'm hoping our timeline would be sometime in April, May, we at least get the 2 signs built. Then, I don't know how we'd go about the intersections, but at least those will be on the books for us to look at, or the next RDC and city to look at, so.
Good. Yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Kevin.
Thank you, guys. You have anything, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
We'd love to hear from you.
I try to send you as many emails as I can to let you know what's going on, who I'm meeting with, and they all end up on the Facebook and everywhere, and so we either have to come to an agreement not to share those, or I will just call you.
When I emailed you right away, and I think I talked with Kathy right away on that, I don't want to say I was shocked, but I was very irritated and upset that a confidential email would go, and we need to check the email list to see who's still on it. But I agree with you in that when you send emails or communications to the board, and I responded to the group in that way, that those are confidential and privileged, and they should not be showing up on Facebook, and that when you want to announce what's being given to us, you will pick the appropriate forum and time to do that, and we should not be doing that. So I don't know who did it or how it happened, but I do want to apologize for that, because.
No apology needed, I'm
It-
just
Well, I'm
saying
just
that.
saying, it bothers me when I see a thing on Facebook and the header's Beech Grove RDC, because that should not be out there, and that was not a good thing.
Do you have any idea how that got on there?
I have no clue.
I mean, I know who put it on there, but we don't know how he got it.
Who knows?
We don't
Yeah.
know who's still on that list, the RDC list,
I don't know, because
who manages that?
Lynn used to, I can't think of his last name.
Back away.
Thank you. He used to manage, but I don't know who manages it now, but
They got a private company now for the.
Yeah, but they're,
I just think we need to look at that list and make sure that, because, we've had a couple of members drop off, to make sure that those emails aren't going to them or something along those lines, because I'm not sure.
RDC communications from a city council person. Unless you send something, but I don't see.
No, I'll put it this way, Mayor Buckley sent us that email, and I wanna say it was maybe 5 hours later, it's on Facebook.
Was this recently? Because I have no.
Yes, it was on the Beech Grove community page, and
I
it,
did not pay, I don't see it.
well, I just kind of, again, I'm always interested in fall festival tickets and anniversaries, congratulations, John, and stuff like that, but when I see, like I say, something along those lines, it infuriates me, because that's not meant to be out there for public consumption, and I don't know how it happened, but we just can't have it happen again, because I'm with the mayor on this. I would rather have him not email us anything if that's gonna be what happens, because he has a right to privacy until he's ready to announce it.
I agree.
But anyway, I want to bring you up to date on several things. I had a meeting with St. Francis concerning the old hospital. We are going to meet again they haven't scheduled it yet, but I think it's going to be late September or October. They are going to develop the property. So when that meeting, we're at the point now where when that meeting comes, a couple of you is going to have to come to that meeting. So you can hear what they want to do, because it is in a TIF district. So, and you guys have control of that, so, but they are going to develop it. So it's good news for the city. I just don't know their final plans. Now, part of the Greenway goes through there in 2019, so we'll be meeting on that as well. But, so we'll be putting out some RFQs for the trailhead there. They want the trailhead to be at 16th and Albany. So if you can envision that on the north side.
Okay.
So we'll work all through that. So when that comes, I'll give you some notice, so a couple of you can come to it. It's some pretty important stuff. The CSX property, we've been working on it for a long time. CSX is wanting to, obviously they want to sell the property. They have been working over there with IDEM to clean it up. So we had a meeting the other day, and it was a really good meeting. A very reputable company. I hope to hear something very soon. Is very interested in purchasing that property and for development. And your interest is that property is also in a TIF district. So when we meet, if it goes through, you're going to have to be involved in this. Now, I do want to just give you a thought is, if this company buys this property, it may be in your best interest to hold off on borrowing money for signs. Because they may talk to you about working together to develop infrastructure for that property. So you can borrow money to invest in that property that will generate you revenue. So you just got to be cautious with that. And
Is this the same company that came to us earlier that me and Kathy were in?
No.
Different, new group, okay.
no. So nothing, I'm all for the interstate project, but that's not going to generate you any revenue. These projects that I'm talking about will generate you a lot of money. So you just have to think through it.
Right, now, on that CSX property, because it borders Indianapolis, and what are the chances of Indianapolis giving them like tax abatements?
If they do,
Because that would affect our revenue, right? Because if they give them tax abatements, then they're not paying tax.
for up to 3 years. And I'm just being totally honest with you. They may very well try to do that.
I would fire the guy in charge of it if he didn't, because
Yeah.
it never hurts to ask. The worst thing they can do is tell you no, but, you know, what I always worry about is like in the previous group, when they wanted us to, back their investment. And I know when we left, we kind of felt like, why are we gonna back their investment? Cause we're, you know, it's not our money, but, I look forward to it, but an infrastructure to help them, I don't mind, but if it, you know, I'll be very leery if they're like, well, we want you to give money to back our investment in case somebody doesn't come, so. That was one of my problems with the previous group, is I felt like they expected the city of Beech Grove to cover their losses if.
So I just think it's just a little bit early, but, I would just be patient and watch, because I think hopefully this will pan out.
So you think this will be a 2019 then? I guess what I'm asking is, at what point, I mean, I understand your concerns and I agree with it, but, you know, if we get to, say, the end of 2019, and obviously, I don't know if we'll have, right now, if we're looking at 280,000, I'm not sure we have the money to do the signage in our, you know, our account.
The St. Francis property will be 2019. And what makes it so significant is that St. Francis won't be the owner.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it comes on the tax rolls totally.
Then I guess that would be where I need to talk to Robert and Jeff, because St. Francis is a medical TIF. And we've kind of ignored it till this point, but money generated in that medical TIF was only supposed to be allowed to go to that particular TIF. The way, you know what I'm saying, when they did the TIF, so that would be something.
Well, with
that
what
we
they
have to
want to do,
really
they're
look
going to
at.
have to rezone the property, which is
Right.
not going to be an issue.
But I was saying, I think Jeff said we had to do something with the TIF, like to change it, so I'm just letting the board know that's something that will come up that we'll have to look at too.
So those projects are going on. I'm set to meet with NDOT again in late September concerning we talked about the train station. They're coming back out. They want to move. So a couple of you will have to join me at that meeting. It's to the point where the RDC, where this will be at, wherever it's going to be at, east of Emerson is going to be in a area that's controlled by you folks. So you're going to have to be involved in that.
That'll be a municipal station, right?
Yes,
It won't be private, so there wouldn't be tax revenues?
yes, because it's going to be, it would be, I don't know, I think the city, I don't know, I might be talking too early, but the city may own it, I'm not sure. But NDOT is going to pay for 90% of it. So it's, whenever they come out, and I'm not sure, sometime in late September, a couple of you folks are going to have to be in attendance. So, so those are three things that directly concern you folks. And I would just be patient and see what they have to say. But all three of them are really good news for the city. The Greenway, you're going to start seeing more bills because it's starting to heat up. After July 1st of 2020, it's, NDOT will put it out for bid, so that's right around the corner. I think I told you, in your budget for next year, 65,000 is for the Greenway. So that has to be plugged in. City budgeted 65,000 for it next year.
Right.
The roundabout at Arlington and Churchman, it is ready for bid, NDOT will release it for bid anytime after July 10th of next year. So, and generally, once they release it for bid, within 60 days, the construction starts. So you have no commitment for that. But I just wanted to let you know because it's happening. In our budget for next year, we budgeted $337,000 for construction and inspection. Thompson Road is slated for any time after July 1st of 2022, but I suspect that that project will be bumped up dramatically. We budgeted 183, we budgeted 2 years of design and planning in next year's budget, and we'll do the same thing because I think they'll move that up at least 2 years because of the severity of that area. We've been working with IDEM on the landfill. They've come out and they're doing some inspections on it. And then we're waiting on their report back if we have to do any remedial work. So it doesn't sound like it, but Phil has been out there with them working on that.
How much long-term is that a liability? Because I know we always worry about that cap cracking or.
I would say forever.
Because, I mean, it just seems like a problem at some point it's gonna, you know what I mean, it's kind of like a scab, and at some point it's just gonna break open, and, you know, when it comes to environmental stuff, it's like, get out your checkbook, and that's really what I worry about, because, yeah, I know the RDC owns that, correct?
Controls it.
Controls it, but the city owns it. I mean, that landfill, or if we had an issue, that's the type of thing that could quickly bury this city, you know. I think about some of those super funds, so I don't know if there's there's a strategy to, you know what I mean?
I don't know.
It's just something I worry about for the city. I mean, it's very concerning.
And the last thing is, we have another Parks dinner on October the 6th. And all of you are welcome to attend with a guest. And there's no charge for your dinner. So if you are interested in attending, just let us know. It's Saturday, October 6th at Hornet Park. Doors open at 5, the dinner is at 6 o'clock. And we are raising money for new playground equipment in the Sarah T. Bolton Park. It's about, they've got a 50-50 grant through Patronicity. It's Indiana Housing and Community Development. And they will match whatever we raise. So it's a good way to get some equipment.
Is it Angela?
Angel.
I got her email and the invite, and I kind of reached back out to her. I didn't get a chance to follow up, but that's obviously something the RDC could help, isn't it? Because
It is, if you so choose. This Patronicity, they want to see as many individual contributors as possible, so there's buy-in interest to this project. They don't want to see one company making a $10,000 donation. They want to see multiple people making small donations.
I guess I reached out to her. You know, that's what I'd like to see, but I'm not just speaking for myself, not the board, but if it gets to where they're like 6,000 short of maxing out this grant so they can get the best equipment, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if she came up and was where you were and saying, this is what we need to reach this full.
I think they'll be all right. Did you go last year, Mark?
No, I did not.
Paul went. It was all right. It was
I went.
Great food.
Kathy, it was a nice dinner.
Oh, very nice.
Yep, very good.
So we're going to do it again. So every penny goes to that.
I'm gonna be out of town, but I asked her to send me the envelope so I can make a donation.
That's it.
Any questions, guys?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I have one question.
Oh, please, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Do you have any update on the grinding of the bumps over the interstate?
No,
got really
NDOT said
excited
that they
about
were gonna
that.
come out and, grind those down at both ends. We get a lot of calls on that.
I was just curious if,
Yeah, we get a lot of calls on that.
They'd fill in the ones when you're getting on there, because you go over, and then you got the ones that are under, you know, when you get on there.
All right.
thank you.
The only other thing I really wanted to talk about real quickly is I'm gonna reach out to Jeff Peters, and, because he does our budget, and send him what we're gonna spend next year. And right now, we've got 65,000 for the Greenway in 2019, and then we'd have the 44,000 for Kevin's project for 2019. I can't think of, right off the top of my head, if we have any other things we're spending money on. Can anybody? Is there any projects that anybody wants to look at for 2019 as well?
I'd like to see a list of options. Of things
Put
that
some
have
options
people have
down,
been.
and that'll be our list of
Okay.
options. To the mayor's point, with the CSX coming, we don't know what they're gonna ask. And we don't know what, you know, Franciscan developing that property, we don't know what they're gonna ask, but
Okay.
if it's not gonna be, I mean, the thing is, if it's not gonna be Franciscan, but someone else, then all of a sudden that, what is it, 14 or 15 acres, that converts into property tax, taxable income, money for us, money for the schools, money for everybody. And, you know, if they want us to spend 150,000 to build driveways to it or something, or help on some type of sewer connects, you know, but they're gonna build, say, $3.5 to $5 million worth of facilities there, then, you know, that would definitely be good return on our investment, so.
Did we ask if it's faith-based?
No.
Okay.
That's a good point. So, I mean, those are the two things I've got that I will ask Jeff to put together in our budget. If anybody else can think of anything else, we'll include it, but, we'll do that, and then next month we'll vote to approve it, to send it to the city council, and then I figure in November, we'll do our yearly RDC report on what we did, what we didn't do, and what our future looks like, and ask the city council for approval of the budget. They have to do that by law every year, approve what we're submitting. So other than that, that's all I've really got. If anybody else has anything or any comments, I'd welcome them now.
I have a letter to read about a July 25th meeting here.
Okay, please.
This letter is completely by me, and the other RDC members are not aware that I wrote this. I became aware at the August 9th, 2018 RDC meeting. Another meeting took place on or about July 25th at Beech Grove City Hall. Those present included RDC President Don Webb, Attorney Robert Runn, his legal assistant, Dr. Paul Kaiser, RDC Financial Advisor Jeff Peters, and School Board Member Aaron Lamb. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the details of TIF money. I decided to wait until I got home to ask questions. At 9:06 p.m. on August the 9th, I sent text message to Don asking details. However, he did not see my message until the next morning. We sent several text messages back and forth. I wanted to know why other RDC members were not aware of the meeting and who is paying for the fees for Mr. Runn and Mr. Peters. He said he was advised the meeting was to be under the radar and kept small. Although I would have been available to attend, I would have declined the invitation. First off, I do not believe any meeting having to do with the Beech Grove RDC should be under the radar. I also do not believe a meeting with one RDC voting member present should be able to spend RDC funds without a majority vote. Even though everyone attending probably left the meeting with a clearer knowledge of TIF, I don't believe this was handled properly. I've been told the meeting was organized by Dr. Kaiser to explain to School Board Member Aaron Lamb why TIF money is so important to the RDC. Personally, I think too much time and too much money has been spent on Mr. Lamb. I am sure even after learning more about TIF, Mr. Lamb would still prefer the RDC relinquish at least one or more TIF districts. How many times should Mr. Lamb be told no? At the August 9th, 2018 RDC meeting, a motion was made, seconded, and carried to pay an invoice for Jeff Peters in the amount of $725.64. That same motion included a payment to attorney Robert Runn of Lewis and Capps in the amount of $806.60, of which $494 was specifically for the July 25th meeting. I met with Mayor Dennis Buckley regarding this meeting. He was aware of the meeting, but he did not take part. I also met in person with school board member Janice King, a former RDC member, and she was not aware of any meeting that took place on July 25th. On August the 24th, Dr. Kaiser called me to talk about what transpired. He said he never intended for the meeting to be secret and was under the impression I was invited and simply did not attend. I made it clear none of the other RDC members were invited, and I would have declined the invitation. Paul discussed some of the details of the meeting and said to even educate Mr. Lamb further, he was hiring someone to figure out more precisely how much money would go directly to the school system if indeed the RDC gave up one or more TIF districts. The school board will be paying for that expense. As I stated to Don Webb and to Paul Kaiser, if the RDC was going to pay money for information regarding TIF, perhaps a better use of funds and time would to have had the presentation by Jeff Peters during a regular RDC meeting or even a special meeting. The public could have attended, the city council members, RDC members, and the entire school board. We all would have benefited. Regarding the checks to Lewis Capps and Jeff Peters, according to Dr. Kaiser, at no time did he intend the RDC to pay those fees. Therefore, I have copies of invoices I will be giving to Dr. Kaiser to reimburse the RDC $1,219.64. The last comment I want to make, often during RDC meetings, the word transparency is used regarding what we do with TIF money and projects we are funding. An under-the-radar meeting is not transparent. Sincerely, RDC Secretary Kathy Chappell.
Would anybody that was there care to give any more information?
Yeah, I'll start out.
Okay.
The meeting was the idea of Bob Runn from the stand. And Ashley was back in whatever the night that Mr. Lamb came here and had a lot of information. Bob and I had a discussion. The best thing we could do is provide the information. And I explained to Aaron, some of the information he is requesting doesn't exist. So therefore, having Mr. Peters develop it, he doesn't have to do that by law. You can have requests for information that exist, but you cannot request RDC, a school board, or the city of Beech Grove to create documents to do that. So Bob's idea was let's talk to Aaron about how basically how the RDC works. So I took him to the standpoint. I apologize to Kathy. This was never really intended to even. I didn't think Don or anybody else from the RDC was going to be here. To me, it was more of a school-related issue. And Bob told me later that he invited Don, and he was going to invite you, which he never did.
Never did.
And so, I'll take the responsibility from the standpoint of the confusion, but it was never intended on my part. I can't speak for Bob, but it was really more of a school-related issue, not an RDC. And as soon as this came up, and I told Kathy and Don, I said, send me the bills for that, because again, it was not considered from my standpoint to be RDC related, but it was information about TIFs and this information. And again, I learned a lot myself from it. And, at some point in time, I'd be glad to share this pretty simple information. But I think myself, and I told my school board the other night at an upcoming meeting, we didn't do it this past Tuesday night because it was our budget meeting. It was a long meeting. I told them at our next meeting coming in October, I'd give them just a Cliff Notes version of what I learned about TIF districts that I didn't know before. That helps me in my role as a non-voting member here and also at the school. So I do apologize, and I apologize to Kathy and Don just for the situation, because it was never intended to be, RDC members per se. When Bob and I started out, it was Bob and I and Mr. Peters and Aaron to get some more information. So I'll take the responsibility from that, and And again, even though it was worthwhile, the communication chain was not as clear as it should have been. And in my world, that always rests with me. So I appreciate Kathy taking the time to listen to me and understanding what the intent was. But sometimes good intentions go south, and I think this one did. So we'll all be very, especially now that, in fact, when this all started, I wasn't even on the RDC. You know, it was more of my role as superintendent. Now I am. So, like I said, it was good information, and I look forward to moving forward. And I will tell you this, I'm not, as a superintendent, I am not in favor of untiffing the areas, mainly from the standpoint, you, as the RDC, you have a lot more flexibility with that money than I do. And there's a lot of projects and a lot of good things that could take place around the city. The school has our share through our, again, we support, great support from our community on referendums. I'd rather see the money stay right where it is and be used like projects that the mayor talked about, because that has a direct yet indirect effect on us. If that business goes in, we'll get 15 cents and 35 cents, even if it's tipped, we'll get advantages on that. And every time we do a project, every time we build a road, every time you guys, the RDC does something, it has an indirect on assessed valuation on homes in the community. So and again, I'm always speaking as the superintendent, not the school board, but I like the idea of that money staying right here with the RDC. What I did learn, which is really exciting, when that does actually go away, we do get money. But to have that money stop from this organization between now and then, I'm not in support of that. I think it needs to stay right here because of the flexibility to use it. So I will make sure that we're communicating clearly, especially when I talk to Bob about kind of crossover matters between school that affect the RDC, but that all rests with me.
Well, that explains the meeting, but it doesn't explain why the RDC other members were not aware that there was going to be a meeting. Whether we were invited or not, we could have known about it.
When Robert approached me, and again, I kind of agree with Paul, that maybe it wasn't the best handle, but Robert approached me as it was going to be a school board type meeting, but he'd like one representative of the RDC there as well.
That's fine.
And that's what he asked me. And to your point, I didn't ask anybody else because he said, can you do this? And it was kind of on a spur of the moment. And I was like, just send me the time, because they didn't really have a meeting. They go, when can you meet? And because, you know, Dr. Kaiser has a schedule, Robert had a schedule, Aaron had a schedule. And I go, just send me the time. Again, it was never my intention to hide anything or to be untransparent. And that's why in, what was the last month? August, that's right. In August's meeting, we talked about that, and I brought up what had been discussed in full, in trying to be as full and complete of the details of that meeting. You know, it was never my thing to hide anything or anything like that. And yeah, I'm looking back, I probably should have questioned Robert more, but Robert approached me as, hey, Dr. Kaiser, and then when I do the school board thing, to explain to Aaron about TIFs, I'd like one member of the RDC, if possible, to come to it. And I said, sure. So, yes, I mishandled it and not informing you guys at the time, and for that I apologize. But at the time, I wasn't thinking, well, this is gonna be this or that.
From Bob's perspective too, he's not here today, but I'm filling in for him. He gave me a little info on it. He saw it as a school-related conference and no intent at all for it to be an RDC meeting. And that's the same sort of thing that we're echoing with Mr. Kaiser here.
And once again, my comment is, that's fine that only one person attended. I have no problems with that. I have a problem that none of us knew it was going to take place. That's my issue. That's being transparent, letting everybody know what's going to happen. And the bills were sent to us. We paid those bills. Now, Dr. Kaiser's never intended for that to happen, but we paid those bills, but you're saying it wasn't an RDC meeting. Well, when I see bills and I go home from a meeting and that we didn't know about, what should I think?
Well, I think it's a given that in hindsight, it could have been handled differently, starting with Bob communicating to the RDC this was going to take place.
Absolutely.
I will tell you, we actually started the discussion in, I think, maybe April or May.
You told me April.
And Bob was gone overseas for a while.
Right.
So it was arranged pretty quickly, but I think the communication, especially now that I'm in this role. I didn't really think much of it.
I
'cause
just don't
Don-
think it was handled properly.
I don't disagree, we could improve that communication and, from that standpoint.
I don't disagree, and if you have, I mean, I'll admit, yeah, I could have done it differently, and if it's a problem, like I've told, I'm prepared to resign as RDC president tonight.
Nobody's
No, I
asking you
know,
to
I'm
do
just
that.
saying, because you're very upset about it, and if I'm the problem, I'm willing to step aside and not be the problem. Because like I say, Robert approached me as, hey, I want somebody to come here and talk to Aaron Lamb, and I'm like, okay. He goes, Paul wants to do this, we need one RDC member, and at that time, because if we would have had one more RDC member, it would have been a quorum by the RDC, because we would have had Paul, we'd have had 3 members.
He said he wasn't on it at the time.
Well,
No,
at the,
I
no,
actually-
at the time we had after the meeting, he was appointed.
Yeah, I was appointed, so.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, I could have handled that better, and I apologize for that. But I don't want hard feelings or people angry, so I'm willing to do whatever you guys want. If you know, to please people and move on from this, because as the mayor's pointed out, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. And if I'm a problem, I'm willing to step aside. I am.
I
think
think
anybody's
from
asking
my
for that.
perspective, I think there was a lot of half information out there. You know, like Bob told me he was gonna invite you, he never did. And when Janice talked to me about it, I said, well, I think Bob invited her, and, you know, this whole chain of communication. And I agree, Kathy, I think probably a good thing we could have done, is just that, hey, there's gonna be this meeting.
Have this huge meeting with everybody here, and then gladly the RDC will pay for it, and
That
anybody who,
information would have been helpful to me.
absolutely,
As the new
absolutely.
person.
We could
Well,
all
actually,
use
it was
some
really
education
interesting.
on TIF.
There was really not any information handed out, it was more of just kind of a discussion, you know, on this and that. And like I
Once
said,
again, school board meeting, RDC paid for it. Now, I realize you're gonna reimburse us, but imagine at the August 9th meeting, we're paying over $1,200 for a meeting that one member went to and one member knew about it.
Well, again, I was the assumption I was gonna get the bill for that, because Bob, you know.
We
Bob
paid
knows
for
this.
it, because it was paid for last month.
And I've got the
I know,
reimbursement. to take care of it.
$1,219.
So again, I'll take part of that responsibility.
That's all I have to say. I wanted that on record, I wanted it on video, and it is.
Anybody have anything else?
I don't.
If not, I got time, it's 8:07. I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make
I'll make
said
said
motion.
motion.
That's a tie. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned at 8:07. Thank you. We will see you next month, October, I'm not sure, 9th or 10th, I think.
I don't
I
remember.
don't know. October 11th. Thank you. Have a good
Okay.
night.